Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you so much, Natalie, and Tim, and Jan, and Thomas. I think if Oprah were Jesus, she'd be here saying, "You're divine. You're divine. Everybody is divine." We know, well, those of us here know our divinity, and that's why we come in to a space with community that is like-minded. And we enjoy being in a place of joy and shining our light. We all have different places we do that. Just think about some of those areas. What are some of the places where you shine your light? You just do it. Typically when we're in our passion, when we are with friends, when we're laughing. So we've got that piece of divinity that most of the time we're aware of, we're connected to. And for me, that divinity is that connectedness to everything, to everything. The planets, nature, the earth, people, animals. But sometimes we forget. It's probably about 98% of the time we remember, and 2% we forget our divinity. We forget who we are at our core. And that's really what I want to focus on today. The next slide, that's okay, is a representation of the light, symbol of the light worker. This is one of my spiritual groups, lightworker.com, Steve and Barbara Rother, that I've enjoyed since I've been a member here, since 2005. And the symbol, the circle, is God. God as the omnipotence, omnipresence, always present, always there, always is. In the beginning, there was God, and there will forever be God. So that eternal circle. And then we have the vertical infinity sign. That's God experiencing himself or herself. And then we've got the horizontal. This is us experiencing ourselves as the divine. And then in the middle, there's this little gap. They don't exactly meet square on. And that's our perfect imperfection as humans, our human nature. And we forget sometimes, especially if we are focusing on being this divinity, you know. We forget that even though we're on a spiritual path, we have this part of us that's human nature. Well, for me, I love peeling those layers of human nature, you know, getting to the nitty-gritty stuff. And that's what I work with on a regular basis. And that's in my work, what I help people do, to peel those layers and get to that truth. See if this sounds familiar to you. I have nothing to wear. I think especially for the women in here. We've heard it, or we've been children who have done that, or we have children who have done that. I remember being one of 5 girls. I don't remember my brother doing this, but my sisters and I, often, I have nothing to wear. Well, obviously, we had things to wear. We actually went to Catholic school, so most of the day we didn't have to worry about that. Our physical needs were taken care of, yet we would blow things out of proportion quite a bit and throw tantrums. And for most of us, we've learned how to do that. We perhaps had a parent or someone who kind of taught that. And that was the same in my home. Yet, we don't have to go off the charts with that, with our reactions. That's sort of where we get into some trouble in life. And that's what I want to come back to. My dad would, maybe once a month, buy us treats on Sunday morning, rolls and sweets from a German bakery. And my favorite were these tea biscuits, which were sweetbreads with icing on top and raisins inside. So one time I remember him coming back without, I don't remember how old I was a child, but just absolutely throwing a fit. You don't have tea biscuits! Whining, crying. And he said, they were gone by the time I got there. And in my head it was, no, it can't be. I was fighting with what is, fighting with reality. Do you do that sometimes? You ever lose your keys and you're just beside yourself? Where are they? This can't be happening. This can't be happening to me right now. I have to get somewhere. Or you're in a car accident and it's that same sense of this can't be happening. No. Or maybe you've received a diagnosis and it's again that this can't be happening to me, not to me. So we're fighting reality. I was reading Wayne Dyer's book. His latest book is called I Can See Clearly Now. And it's in our public library now, because I asked them to order it, which is a fun thing to do. That's one thing that makes me happy. And it brings me joy. And he mentions all his teachers, all his inspirational teachers, and one of them is this gentleman, Albert Ellis. Does anybody know that name? You. So, I didn't know his name. I was an education major, and my master's is in education, and the big name then was Vygotsky, who was a Russian psychologist, who talked about how children learn. We learn from adult others how to be experts in something. So this Albert Ellis, I got curious about him. So I started reading him, and I'm in the process of reading more of his work and learning. Well, his thing is Rational Emotive Behavior Therapy, REBT. Started as RET. And he has the primer, the big book. I got it online on Amazon. It's called A New Guide to Rational Living. New in 1961 when he wrote it. New again in 75 when he updated it. Still very valid today. He was really the precursor of just do it and think rich, think and grow rich, and there's one more I wanted to mention. But he's a precursor of, oh yeah, don't worry, be happy. But he had a system that went beyond, because how many of us can just suddenly turn off a thought, think and grow rich, or turn it on? You know, how many of us can do that? How many of us can just drop our worry suddenly and become happy? It's that human nature part, that perfect imperfection that keeps us from doing it. And most of the time it's healthy, you know, that's okay. But there's a scale, and Ellis talks about it. We have the okay, the things that are good, going good, and then we have, you know, the bad stuff. And we're in this continuum. Can I have the next slide? Thank you. Ignore that piece in the middle. We know peace, and we can be peace now. Yet if we go to the extreme of not knowing peace, of being in the no peace for too long, we become depressed, we become suicidal, we take actions that, you know, aren't Christ-like, that aren't in our best interest, that are far, far from our divinity. And we get ourselves into trouble. Well, he talks about this method of peeling the layers that I kind of like. And it explains why some of us can't do it so fast and why we need maybe work in that 2%. You know, think about your 2% this morning of those places where you don't find the joy, where you don't find the light. Because for me, I can turn it on and I can be with spiritual community and I can sit in Sangha, and I can do my work and be in my passion. And then there are these moments, these times where it just sort of fades. And for me, it's when I get home and I start looking at the papers on my counter, or I start thinking about, do I really have to market? How do I market? I'm not sure what to do. I'm not sure what action to take on the computer, and I can start getting myself down on those little things. So he talks about how we judge, we label, we call ourselves bad. You fill in the blank. I hate people who. What's your first thought? Who abuse drugs? Who are Republicans? Who are Democrats? We label, and then we attack not only our human nature, which is good, but our divinity as well. So how do we keep from going to the extreme? It's by this little process. It's by exploring our perceptions. So Albert Ellis says, we all perceive. That's the first thing typically we do when we have an experience. And it's what we see, or what we hear, or what we feel, or touch, or what we know, what we taste, what we smell. And then we have a thought about it. And of course, those can be rational or irrational thoughts. They can be in the now peace place, or they can be in the no peace place. And then we also have our feelings. Same thing. We can really hang on to our feelings. And we have our behaviors and actions, which are these sort of consequences of the first three. And they don't happen sort of in that order all the time. If we are by a hot poker, or hot fire, and we put our hand in, we'll immediately perhaps not even have a feeling, just have a knowing that we're hot, and have that exclamation of, ah! So this is helpful because he also has a way of kind of peeling those layers. So I'm going to give an example. It's a real life one for some of us. It's a minor one, okay? It's not a biggie. So let's say you live with someone for a while, and suddenly that person can't hear you anymore very well when you speak. Suddenly it's, what? Huh? Can you be louder? Now, you can take that adversity, that thing, which in this example is my partner can't hear me all the time when I speak. And we start rationalizing it. And it might be we say, well, I don't like that very much. It doesn't feel very good. Or, this could be a little annoying. Or even, I hope he's okay. I hope he doesn't have an infection or a cold. Maybe he's got a cold. And that's our rational belief. And then we come to what Ellis calls a healthy negative consequence. We're frustrated. Perhaps we're worried. And that's normal. That's human nature. Right? We're not tipping the scales. But we could have an irrational belief like, well, there must be something wrong with me. I did something to cause this. And believe it or not, we do that pretty often. In that 2% of the time. We suddenly internalize something, we take it personally. Or, what if he has a brain tumor? What if there's really something going on? It's gone from his ears to his brain. We do that. So when we are there, the best thing to do, and of course those thoughts can result in unhealthy consequences. We are infuriated over time, We're sick with worry over time, and it extends. So we get into a depression, or we get into an upsetment that just lasts and lasts and lasts. And we have trouble pulling ourselves out. So his method is to dispute our beliefs and our emotions, dispute them. Does this really mean there's something wrong with me if my partner can't hear me all the time? Does this really mean that there's something wrong with him if he can't if he can't hear me? Is there something wrong with him? Does it mean that he is suddenly unworthy of practicing or trying to come to some middle ground, to meet this middle ground? Is there a lack of love there? Probably not. We dispute it. We can say, of course not. This doesn't have to mean anything. Do I love this person any less? Does he love me any less? If we've gone to this place of, what if he's having an affair with somebody? Because suddenly he can't hear me. Again, minor example, but we blow things up. We exaggerate, we overemphasize, we judge, we start judging ourselves, and we start disputing what is, and we make it much bigger. So we can come up with some effective new philosophies, some new beliefs, if we are willing to look at those and question the unhealthy consequences, the unhealthy feelings, the unhealthy parts, the unhealthy thoughts that we have. So, an effective new philosophy might be, okay, so it's a little bit irritating, but I don't have to be enraged. I don't have to go to that place of no peace. I'll have to calm down. We don't have to go to the place of, we can say, this is not awful. Albert Ellis talks about how we awfulize and, this is the worst thing that can ever happen. You hear people say that about very trivial, very minor things. And if we add that energy to it, they become these stamps. They really do. And we can hold on to them and keep us from being in that 98% divine love and light. So it's good practice to kind of look at these things in our lives. He also talks about the danger of internalizing, starting to blame ourselves about something out there, someone else's behavior or thoughts. Because that leads to a self-erosion, and it can really quickly spiral down from there into that place of no peace. So this is his book from 1997, which I also found online. How to Make Yourself Happy and Remarkably Less Disturbable. And that's where this information comes from. In the library, there is a book by Albert Ellis, and it's called The Road to Tolerance. And that's good, because that's where I read very clearly in print, all parents are flawed. Read that in. All parents are flawed. All parents are flawed. It's that light worker. It's that perfect imperfection. It's that piece that if we're going to be on the earth and we're here, we can't possibly get everything right. We can't. That's the whole point. For me, the whole point of this journey is once we understand our divinity and we know it's here and it's always here and we're connected to everything, then it's about clearing this other stuff up and spreading that light, being love more often. And if we're in that place of no peace, we just can't. It might be a simple message, but I think it's a pretty powerful one. I think if Jesus was here, he might actually, first of all, he'd be just smiling. lovingly with that bright light that comes from his eyes and from his entire countenance. That love that melts, you know. And then he'd say, get over yourself. You are divine. That's not going to change. Who you are is not going to change. It's this piece of human nature that we all struggle with, where we can do better. And not even so much do better. Albert Ellis would say that's not a good thing to say, because we don't know if we can do better. We only have now. So to berate ourselves over what happened is not healthy. And to say, I'm going to do better next time. It could be motivating a bit, but it could also, over time, erode, again, our self-image. Because we have that human nature, no matter what, as long as we're here. So how do we stay in the now piece? Well, how do you stay in the now piece? What are the ways that you like to express that divinity? We're going to, in a little bit, have a meditation. That's the way that I like to do it. I started in 1998 on this spiritual path, the fall of 98. I had a meditation group that I was involved with. I started reading. One of the authors I enjoyed was Shakti Gawain. She's got a book, Creative Visualization. And I found that just reading her meditations, I could go to those places, which is really kind of cool. And now I lead meditation groups here and there, one in Junction City once a month. And when I'm asked to in my Sunday night Sangha group, and here today I will. And just being in that space and letting the love and the light come in. So this is a short, but hopefully enlightening, entertaining, thought-provoking, feeling-provoking speech talk today. To remind us that we can be both. Can you go back to the light worker slide? Thanks, Austin. We are both. We are this divine intelligence, this divine love, this divine light, and we are human. And if we're here, let's peel a little bit more of the stuff so that we can be fully present, so we can be that now piece. Thank you.